Welcome to Looking in the Mirror podcast. I am Monique. It is important for you to know your identity. What do I mean by that? It is important to know who you are and whose you are. We live in a time, and it's not just this time, it's been happening since the beginning of time, where the enemy comes to seek, steal, and destroy. His goal is simply to stop those that God has placed on this earth for a specific reason. He can sniff them out from day one, and that's just a fact. So if you are a mother or even a father, and you have a child that you know is special, you have a child that you know was sent by God, keep an extra eye on that child, because the enemy will come after them when they are young and do things to try to silence that child. It happens every single day. It usually will come in the form of molestation. It can come in the form of emotional abuse, psychological abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, but anything that can get to that child that is impressionable at that time to stop them from being able to develop that voice that is in them, that God placed in them, and stop them from being able to be the person that God created them to be. When that happens, that completely throws that child off of the path that they were intended to be on. Now, God is an all-powerful God. So, whatever evil the enemy throws, God can and will turn that around and use that for good. But that child will go through hardships. So that child will go from being on the path that God had for them to going down a path that can be disastrous for them, a path that can be very dark for them. And sometimes they cannot come back from that path. Sometimes when they come from that path, then that evil is turned around and used for good and used for glory, which is what God can and will do. They can be on top of the world. But it depends on the support system that they have in their corner, and it depends on the hope and the faith that they have within themselves on how that can turn out. You have some young girls that will end up being very promiscuous. Some girls that will date person after person after person, or even go after older men, because being promiscuous is them trying to feel that hole that they basically can't feel. They can't feel that hole. They're trying to fill a hole that only God can fill. That's it. If they have an absentee father, that's another thing. They're trying to fill a void that no one can fill. Only God can fill that void. That is it. But that will, because of the trauma and because of the pain that they've gone through, it will deviate and take them on an entirely different path. It can be a path of destruction, a path of torture, a path of complete darkness. Sometimes people will turn to drugs in order to feel better or to numb the pain. A lot of times people don't even understand why they do the things that they do, because they block out what has actually happened to them. But these particular people that are going through these things, sometimes these kids or these young adults are actually prophetic, but they don't even know it. They don't even realize it. Sometimes they don't even have mental problems. It's not that. It's something totally different. It's something totally spiritual, but they don't have the right support system around them to help them get through the problems that they're getting through, and to help them understand, okay, you went through this trauma. Because you went through this trauma blocked this gift that you have. And because it blocked this gift that you have, and because of the trauma, so you have these two combinations, you're now turning to this to try to numb the pain, or you're turning to this trying to fill a void that cannot be filled, because you have to heal first. You can't heal it. You have to be filled. You have to be healed before you can feel. And it's just that simple. And the only person that can heal it is God. A human person, a human man or woman is not going to heal you. Only God can heal you. But we're so fixated on healing physically in the physical world that we're not thinking, okay, this is something spiritual that I have to feel. This is something spiritual that I have to get right before I can turn to the physical to get it right. And sometimes that root is so deep. You have to go to the root of the problem. You can't do it surface level. You have to go deep. You have to dig deep into it in order to make sure that you get that out of you. You want to get that out of you, because you know what happens if you don't get it out of you and you don't get to the problem? When you do have kids, guess who it's going to go to next? You're going to pass that trauma onto your child. Your child is going to get that trauma. Even if they didn't go through it, your child is now going to inherit that trauma. Inheritance doesn't just mean I'm going to get the money that my parents left for me. It means more than just that. It also means I'm going to get the mental issues that come from my mother and father. I'm going to get the spiritual issues that come from my mother and father. I'm going to get the headaches, whatever those headaches were, that come from my mother and father. And I'm going to get the unhealed dealings, whatever those unhealed traumas and dealings are, that came with my mother and father that they didn't bother to fix. Either because they were too lazy to fix it, they didn't want to fix it, they decided they came from an era or from a family that was hush, keep it quiet. We don't talk about that, even though everyone knew it took place. We're not going to talk about it. Even though it was Uncle so-and-so, we're not going to talk about it. That right there is why you have so many families that are completely messed up, because of silence. And that is what the enemy set out to do. He set out to silence you. Silence is the worst thing that you can possibly have, because it stops healing. It stops generations from blossoming and from being what God put them on this earth to be. So just imagine if you came from a family that if something were to happen to you and they took action, and I don't mean action as in went out and hurt someone, but they took action in order to make sure that it didn't happen to someone else in your family, like calling the police department, and got you the help, the psychological and the spiritual help that you need. Imagine what that family could be, the dynasty that family could be, if that family possessed all of these gifts that God has instilled in them. Make sure that you are watching your kids. Make sure that you are there for your kids. And if you did come from a family, or you did go through trauma, make sure that you are trying to get the help that you need, because you don't want to pass that on to your children. Even if it's so hurtful that you don't want to think about it, you want to block it out, you want to forget it, I highly recommend that you seek help, because I love my kid more than I love me. And even if it's something that I don't want to remember because it was so awful what I went through, I'm going to go through it. I love her so much that I'm going to go through the headache and go through the hurt of reliving whatever it was that I went through in order to stop it at me, so she doesn't have to go through it, and so my grandchildren don't have to go through it. So make sure that you are in the position, or try to get yourself in the position in order to do that. So seek help. Don't just sit on it. Don't be silent. Don't let the enemy silence you, because that's what he does best. He will silence you. Don't let him do that. And let me ask you this one thing before I go. If whatever happened to you was very hurtful and was very dark and traumatic, if that never happened to you, who would you be? That's something I want you to think about, and that's something that I want you to write down. Write that in a journal and write that down. Take a few days to go over and write that down. Think about that. If what happened to you that was so traumatic, it was very traumatic, it was very hurtful, if that never happened to you, what would you be? Who would you be? Who would you be? Where would you be at this point in your life if that never happened to you? Meaning that never affected you. Meaning that never stopped your voice. It never silenced your voice. It never made you fearful to do certain things in life. Where would you be? Because again, the enemy's job is to steal, kill, and destroy. His goal is to destroy your destiny. His goal is to steal your voice. So he sends people on an assignment to get you at an early age, to do things to you, to traumatize you, and to hurt you, so that you won't continue and have a voice, so that you won't pursue certain things that God instilled in you for you to pursue. So if those things never happened to you, where would you be? Who would you be? That's something to think about. And if you have been through something that is very traumatic, you're in the process of overcoming it, or you want to overcome it. You want to share your story and talk about it, I would love for you to come on my podcast. You can reach out to me. My link is in the bio. You can reach out to me on my TikTok. You can reach out to me on my YouTube. Have a blessed and wonderful day.